As Mr. Gallego's amendment will do, and I'll give him time to get back there, we'll spend rainy day money that technically doesn't exist.
Mr. Gallego. Mr. Speaker, will the gentleman yield for a question? Mr. Eissler, do you yield?
Yes, I will.
Mr. Eissler, there is $6.5 billion available in the rainy day fund now, is there not? And in fact, that's estimated to grow to be at least $9 billion by 2013.
That could very well be, but over 4 of it is set for May of 2013, I believe, for Medicaid.
In May of 2013, the legislature will already be in session. Is that not correct?
Yes.
So if it's already going to be in session, then we'll also have access. There's going to be a supplemental bill either way, is there not?
Most likely.
So if there is a supplemental bill either way, there's going to be a hole in education just like there's going to be a hole in Medicaid, and we can plug the hole in education right now.
I think we should wait till next session to determine that.
Now you have to fire teachers first.
So you have to fire teachers first, and you have to fire librarians first, and you have to make class sizes bigger, and you have to create an emergency in the public school system when you can just fix it right now.
The funds aren't available.
But there's a balance, and the comptroller has told us there's a balance of $6.5 billion in that rainy day fund right now.
You know, a big reason I think our country's in trouble is we're spending money we don't have or we may anticipate. And that's in that category. I think next session we'll have an opportunity to do that with a supplemental.
Well, and I will tell you that a big reason that our country's in trouble is because we're not educating enough kids. And we're going to be educating them even more poorly in the future. Our graduation rates are too low. Our teachers are overworked and underpaid. Our kids are not living up to their potential because they don't have the assistance that is required. Even though, as I indicated to you, I've just spent a lot of time with a lot of kids who are talking to me about their dreams and living out their potentials, and it seems to me that it's incredibly ironic that our choice as a legislature and your choice as a chair is to make these cuts now when we don't have to make these cuts now.
Well, our school districts have been prepared for these cuts, and as you've seen, a lot of them have already occurred.
Are you telling me that those cuts are good public policy, Mr. Chairman?
No, I'm telling you that
I want to know whether those cuts are good public policy, because I will tell you that I believe educating kids is good public policy.
I think educating kids is the best public policy.
So why don't you agree to this amendment?
You're arguing about how much it costs, okay, or how much we spend. You know, we don't know how much it costs. We do know how much we spend. And you're implying that spending a little bit less of the $52 billion that we spend on public ed each year is a very harmful situation.
Well, I would say $4 billion is a pretty big amount, and it's certainly a pretty big amount to the school districts that I represent.
And I think I think any school district will tell you that a few percentage points won't hurt a thing.
Here's the challenge that I see in your position, Mr. Eissler, is that as you talk about the cost, you don't talk about the outlying costs and the outlying years of what happens if we send kids to prison instead of sending kids to college. You don't talk about that. You don't measure that cost. You don't measure the fact that you're already deferring $2.3 billion in addition to the $4 billion that you're cutting.
But what I am saying is living within our means is what enables Texas to create more jobs than all the rest of the states combined.
And the best
thus producing more revenue.
And that makes, Mr. Eissler, it makes perfect sense. Texas has created more jobs than any other state in the country, and the best way to do that is to cut money for public ed. The best way to sustain that economy is to cut money for public ed. That's what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying.
Texas has created more jobs than any other state in the country, and the best way to keep that going is to make the cuts that you suggest.
It's to keep our taxes low and our workforce educated.
Well, how is our workforce going to be educated when we're cutting money to schools?
I think we're doing a fine job of both.
Are we going to do a fine job of both after they're cut for $4 billion? I don't think so.
It's not how much you spend, it's how well you spend it.
Well, I haven't heard the word superior public schools even one time in the conversation about the budget. All I've heard is we need to cut money because we don't have it. I've not heard us setting goals about having a superior public education system or even offering up how much a superior public education costs.
Actually, we do have an excellent public education system.
Well, and I'm glad that we have an excellent public education system. I want to keep it that way, and in fact, I want to make it better. So this $4 billion in the rainy day fund is going to make it better.
Automatically putting more money in it doesn't automatically make it better.
And you know what? But I will tell you that taking money out of it at $4 billion at a time, that's a pretty big cut. Every superintendent that I've talked to tells me that's going to affect class sizes in the lower grades, as an example. You really want your grandkids or your kids to go from 22 to 1 to 30 to 1? That's a daycare, Mr. Eissler. That's not a classroom.
I think you've probably had more than that in your class.
No, I had the luxury of growing up in Alpine, Texas, where my class size was pretty small.
Okay. Well, I grew up with at least 30 in a class.
Here's on a real level, those cuts. Are you taking the position that those cuts is good public policy?
I'm saying those cuts are necessary and that they are not injurious to the overall public education picture of Texas.
So they're not going to hurt at all, is what you're saying?
I think they'll be uncomfortable. I don't think they'll be harmful.
So the quality of education is not going to suffer as a result of taking $4 billion out of the public school
in a
system.
biennium when you're spending $104 billion.
In addition to the amounts that you're deferring.
We have outstanding leadership in our schools. We have outstanding teachers. And
no more reading and math and science initiatives, and no more full day of pre-K, and no more gifted and talented, and none of the things that really have provided that economy that you and I are so proud of. Those things are gone.
Those things will be adjusted.
Those things will be
adjusted.
Those things will be gone, Mr. Eissler. Those things will be gone. The reading and the math and the science initiative, those things will be gone. The gifted and talented programs, those things will be gone.
No, they won't. Gifted and talented will stay. They're part of the formula. I think 0.12.
Pre-kindergarten, is that part of the formula?
Pre-K will be there.
Full day?
I think what's funded by Head Start and TWC.
So if it's funded by federal money, it'll be there, but not anything funded by state money.
Workforce Commission.
So, again, the best way to sustain the Texas economy and to keep it growing and to make sure that we have an educated workforce is by cutting funds to education.
No,
and that's what you're saying.
I think making them better, making them more productive. And I move to table.
Well, Mr. Eissler, I think that's brave rhetoric, but I don't see how that helps to solve what is already a challenging system for folks of color in particular, whose graduation rates are already too low, and as the diversity of Texas is changing and Texas is growing, we need to be doing more to make kids go to college and graduate from high school and less to put kids in prison.
And I think we have. I think what we've done with House Bill 3 in looking at career and technical education that has made school more relevant to kids, all kinds of kids who see that school means something and that they can get a better job by staying in school, I think is most important. So I agree that graduation rates could be better, and I think we're going to see better graduation rates. We're going to see more kids attending because they see the relevance, they see the value in what we're providing.
You're going to have fewer teachers, and fewer teachers, you're going to teach less kids to dream. You're going to teach less kids
not necessarily.
to go live their full potential.
I think we're looking to save teacher jobs.
Well, I don't see how you do that when you cut $4 billion out of the school budget, Mr. Eissler.